Some things rise and some things fall, like a quarantine cruise ship filled with the hantavirus. We're talking Fantasy Risers and Fallers. Producer, hit that button. Welcome, faithful viewers and new viewers, to the newest edition of the Dynasty Pulse right here on Fantasy Sports Advice Network and probably FSAN 105.1 talking West Tennessee. I am Biggs. In the house is General Crawd. We got Schultzy down below and Grindberg wearing the hat of the worst baseball team in history. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Pretty good. Yeah. Not on a cruise ship, that's for sure.
Definitely not on a cruise ship. We're here to talk Risers and Fallers in fantasy space. This is the Dynasty Pulse, so it's all Dynasty. I don't know, we could do more preamble, more chatter, more banter, or we can get into it.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's been a while since the four of us just have been hanging out and haven't had a esteemed guest on. We are the esteemed guest today, so it's nice to just kind of not have to be so on schedule, on flow, and you know, we can really talk our ball a little bit here, guys, because we haven't really talked ball us four in a really long time. And this is the new.
We're gonna probe each other.
I think we're just gonna talk.
You didn't go that far.
I think we may even have some like some conflict today, which is kind of what we let's do it. I mean, we haven't had some good conversation in a while, and you know, we've got probably about 8 players to go over, but you know, we'll see how far we get down our list. I mean, if one player we get a little bit more into because we have a split in conversation, we'll do so. But let's get into it. Let's talk about some risers and fallers, and it's not just rookies. We've been talking rookie content this whole offseason, and let's talk about some guys now that kind of fit the bill here. And I'm going to talk first about my first faller, or my faller, if you will. And this could be a little bit controversial. I'm going to talk about Trey McBride. And, you know, I don't think his dynasty stock took a noticeable complete smash hit, but I mean, it took a little bit of a downfall to me. That quarterback situation headed into this season, you know, and after exploding in 2025, it was a great season, 126 receptions, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. I think he faces a little bit of uncertainty here coming up in the quarterback position. I know Jacoby Brissett is currently holding the starting gig, and, you know, the leash is probably pretty loose right now, but he's holding out. And Carson Beck is lurking, and they're probably going to want to see what they have in their young quarterback. So we look at what McBride did last year, and it was throughout the Brissett, you know, emergence. And, you know, I think McBride is being drafted in Dynasty and in redraft, if you will, as the tight end 1, if not the tight end 2. I think Bowers is kind of emerging here, and I see a guy like Colson Loveland emerging. He's coming, and he's now my tight end 2 because of a couple things. I love that emerging offense, and what I see here in Arizona, you know, they brought in Jeremiyah Love, who I think is going to take some pass catching options away from McBride. And if they do decide to give, you know, Carson Beck an opportunity, I'm really worried about that situation. And that really scares me. And that's the falling situation here. I think he falls down to tight end 3 for me in Dynasty. I think what I see in Bowers' situation and they not adding any sort of top tier wide receiver to that room, I think that he's going to smash in a Clint Kubiak offense. And I really love to see what Colson Loveland did at the end of last year, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that moving forward. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Colson Loveland being the number one target in Chicago moving forward, especially this year. So it's not out of the realm of opportunity. So I think that McBride is being priced high, and I'm a McBride guy. I've got a lot of McBride shares, but I think his dynasty stock took a little bit of hit here. Schultzy, what do you got to say about that?
Yeah, I think this is a really sharp take, to be honest. When you look at the Cardinals offense, you're right that, I mean, we saw a lot of production here rolling in with Brissett and just high volume. You're looking at 170 targets. There's no way that number's keeping up. We saw the touchdown. Everybody talked about the touchdown regression, right? Or the positive regression coming for him. And it happened. Will he get 11 next year? And possibly, like, double digits is possible again here. I'm not ruling that out. But I think the big thing here is what you said about Jeremiyah Love. We're going to have a real running back on this team. I know James Conner's been pretty serviceable for him, but the run game overall hasn't been strong for this team. And I think they've used McBride as an extension of that in a way. Just to go out and get some chunk yards here and there. Pretty easy, cheap targets. He was 16th in the league in average depth of target for tight ends, but he was number 4 in deep target share. So he's racking up the deep targets, but it's showing you on the flip side, he's also taking a lot of shallow, short, quick ones as well to balance himself in the middle of the ADOT. So there is a lot of that quick, short stuff, I think, to help out a failing run game. I think this is a very sharp take to see some overall fantasy regression for McBride.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you. We just recently did a dynasty startup, and Trey McBride was the 5th player taken off the board, first tight end. He did have 147, almost 150 targets the previous year with Kyler Murray, and then, of course, the touchdown explosion that drove his numbers in 2025. But I still feel like he's going to be in the realm of 150 targets. If he slips a little bit, we're talking 130 targets, 140 targets. That's still absolutely smashing what other tight ends are going to be able to do. The Arizona offense runs through Trey McBride, and I don't think that's going to change even with Jeremiyah Love. We do have breaking news. Juwan Jennings has signed with the Minnesota Vikings. So there's another little arrow in Kyler Murray's quiver. But yeah, I don't think that McBride's value has moved at all.
I don't think it's necessarily that we're expecting a huge dip from him or anything. I think it's just what Mike is saying, that like you said, 5th overall feels a little strong here.
5th overall streak is like a monster reach for me when I just see what's happening there. There's not a certain quarterback there. You look at, what we see in Chicago. Caleb Williams is emerging. That offense is emerging under Ben Johnson. And, I see what, Brock Bowers did as a rookie. And I think last year was just, all the pieces falling because of, so many situations, crumbling in Las Vegas. So I just see that both those guys for me are just emerging. And I see Trey McBride in a situation where I'm a little bit more worried about. Chev, what do you have to say about this situation? Are you worried about McBride? Do you have him, still firmly in your top 2? What's your take on this?
Man, I'm sure at some point when Travis Kelce started his 6 or 7 year streak of 1,000-yard seasons and 90 to 100 receptions, there was somebody who said, man, I think maybe we need to look somewhere else. And I feel the exact same way here. We got 147 targets, which was then topped this year by 169 targets. Nice. And we have a guy who's just an outlier amongst outliers at the position. And with him and Brock Bowers, it's just Gronk and Kelce redo, in my opinion. Obviously, neither one of them is Gronk, but they both would profile closer to Travis Kelce. So for me, I'm going to ride the wave. If I have McBride, I need a haul to move off of him. if we're in a, start 2 tight end premium 2 point, it's 2 points per catch for a tight end, I could see him being a top 5 pick. I don't have any issue with it because as long as he's healthy, it's going to be one of the safest clicks on the board. He's not going to miss. So I think, Mike, you might be overthinking it a little bit here.
Well, I'm thinking too, like I'm trying to send out some feelers here. I'm trying to see if I could capitalize on his high value right now. Like his capital is as high as it's ever going to be. And, I'm trying to trade him for Colston Loveland plus. And if I can do that, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like this is the situation here where you could capitalize on that. If you think that Trey McBride might be your tight end 3 in Dynasty and somebody's willing to pay you your tight end 2 plus, why not go and make that move? I'm just saying that Trey McBride fell a little bit for me because of the situation outside of this draft. I was not expecting Jeremiyah Love to go there. I think he's going to be the centerpiece of that offense. They picked him at number 3 and may not be right out of the gate. I think it's going to take some time to progress. And even if his target share goes down, like 2 or 3%, we're looking at a little bit less there. And I'm worried about the quarterback situation there. So there could be an opportunity here where they put Carson Beck in there for a series of games, 4 or 5 games, to see what this guy has to offer. And that alone for me is going to really pump the brakes here for me with Trey McBride. He's not Kyler Murray caliber. I'm telling you that right now. So we're talking.
Yeah, no, it could be. Yes. For a 5-game stretch, it could be very bad. For a 33-game stretch, it has been phenomenal.
Outside of the touchdowns,
what I'm saying is, you never split $1 for 3 quarters, and if you traded him right now for Colston Loveland plus, you're not going to get the plus that you need to make this feel good when football is getting played. When Trey McBride comes out and he averages 11 targets a game again, and he's a focal point of the offense. James Conner was a focal point of the offense in 2024, and he still had 147 targets in 16 games. So there's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for him to eat. If there's any sort of concern, it's just that, man, maybe this offense is so bad that it doesn't support him. There could be some regression. Again, he could go from 126 receptions to back to 100 to 110. And, it could spike back up to, it could go 10 yards of reception. So he just barely clears 1,000 yards, but that's still going to be, I'm pretty sure, close to the top of the tight end position. So even when you're the tight end 1 or the tight end 2 in Dynasty, you don't always finish as the tight end 1 or 2. And I think that what you're buying there is you're not buying the tight end 1. You're not guaranteed to have the tight end 1. You're buying a guy that has a floor of tight end 3.
And let's not forget, in 2024, Brock Bowers had his breakout rookie season where he was targeted 153 times, caught 112 passes, and 10 of those games were started by Gardner Minshew, who is the backup quarterback in Arizona. So even if it's Gardner Minshew and not Jacoby Brissett, there's still a path there for Trey McBride to have just as good a season as he has been the last 2-3 years.
All right. Well, I think this is maybe get some comments here in the comments here, folks, as we're talking about this. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. But yeah, let's move on here. And Schultzy, let's talk about your guy. Who do you think is a faller here as we move on from Trey McBride?
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, there's not a ton to say here, but we had to mention Tyler Allgeier, and this sucks because we all wanted him to have this opportunity. Coming out of he was 5th round pick, I believe, out of BYU, and had this 1,000-yard rookie season, and it was like, holy crap! Look at this diamond in the rough we just saw. And I mean, you don't pass up on Bijan Robinson. I don't blame the Falcons for doing that. Look at Bijan, incredible, right? So you don't blame the team. It is what it is. But what does Allgeier do? He goes out here and puts up 600 yards in back-to-back seasons and then another 500-yard season after that. He finds his way into the end zone a handful of times a year. He catches 20, 30 balls a season, as the backup. This guy's a solid football player. He goes and gets this deal over in Arizona. It wasn't a huge deal, but from all the reports we've gotten out of this is that Arizona told him, hey, you're the guy. We're signing to this deal. You're going to be the dude in this backfield, because there was some other dudes. You had the potential James Conner question. We had, oh my God, I'm blanking on the other guy's name right now.
Trey Benson.
Thank you, Trey Benson. I kept wanting to say Trey McBride because we were just talking about him, but I knew it was the tight end. So Trey Benson's there. So it was a little murky even with Allgeier coming in. But when the team tells him, hey, you're the dude, all right, cool, let's go. I'm coming. I'll sign the deal. I'm going to be the guy. Only for them to turn around and spend the number 3 overall pick on Jeremiyah Love. You don't spend that pick on a guy if he's not about to be the unquestioned guy. If I remember correctly, Allgeier can get out of the contract after this season and be a free agent again. But at that point, we're looking at a dude entering into his age 27 season with just not a ton of track record at that point. I know there's still some juice to squeeze here. There's gotta be some juice to squeeze out Allgeier here still, but I don't know, man. It just became murky without giving him, well, obviously with drafting Love, but without giving him the unquestioned shot this year, the longer term just gets more questionable.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chev.
I'm a big fan of everything that you just said. But unfortunately, this is a situation where I think Allgeier is always going to be the bridesmaid and never be the bell cow. Everybody wants to go back to the 2022 season, not remembering that it was just Arthur Smith just hammering this dude between the tackles. And, he would pop one every now and then. But I think he's best served in the role that he played in Atlanta, where we can get some short yardage carries. We can get, we can have him be efficient around the goal line. We can have him, just carrying a drive or two. He's basically the Michael Jordan of Blake Corums for that role.
That is awesome.
So, I think that's where he's best served. I thought him and James Conner were going to be a 1-2 punch, and I was going to have just some phenomenal, fanciful dreams about having Jeremiyah Love in 2 times. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Listen, the point here is that Tyler Allgeier, nice player, probably better suited to be, the 2 in a very, very powerful 1-2 punch where the one guy is getting 2,000 yards from scrimmage and then comes out on the goal line every now and then. Honestly, his best fit is if Detroit would have signed him.
Ooh, yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah.
Him replacing Montgomery, he's not as good as Montgomery, but he could definitely come in and be the big back and handle the short yardage stuff. So, yeah, my heart goes out to everybody who thought Tyler Allgeier, it was Tyler Allgeier season. He's going the way of Matt Flynn, it appears.
Yeah, I did some preseason work trying to acquire Tyler Allgeier shares, knowing that he was going to be moving on, and all that effort is now wasted.
It's not wasted. It's just, hey, not yet. Not yet. And when we're in 2030, it's probably still going to be not yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, he'll be behind somebody else that is the starting next generational talent.
Yeah, he'll be behind Adrian Peterson Jr.
Exactly. Yeah. No matter what role he plays, wide receiver, cornerback, or running back. Let's go. All right, Chev, talk about your guy that is falling down the draft board fast. I know who you're talking about, and yeah, it certainly sucks for one Mr. Talk about him.
Yes, I would like to talk about Mr. Ronaldinho Jr. Harvey, running back for the Denver Broncos. And my issue here, guys, is that Broncos were one of the best offensive lines in football last year yet. And J.K. Dobbins was extremely efficient running behind that offensive line, but RJ Harvey couldn't quite figure it out to the tune of 3.7 yards a carry. The great part, though, is that he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal.
He was.
Okay. As a, in terms of touchdown equity, in terms of, he stayed true to Sean Payton's creed of throwing the ball to the running back a bunch and contributed a bunch there as well. So there's a role where he's a perennial RB2. I think that the unfortunate part here is that he could become the running back version of Jalen Waddle, where the idea of him is much cooler than the actual fantasy production. And I think Jonah Coleman's a real thing. I don't think he's going to take touches away from, he's going to take touches away, but I think he's going to function as someone much like a Mark Ingram back in the day that's just a complete back, still able to catch the ball, but also hammer between the tackles, which that's something that I did our scouting report last year for RJ Harvey, and that was one of the things is we saw that he wasn't super efficient running between the tackles. So that shows up in the most high leverage moments for the Denver Broncos. Ipso facto, they spend a 4th round pick on Jonah Coleman, who, regardless of what you think about this draft class, like I like Jonah Coleman a lot. I've liked Jonah Coleman a lot. I'm going to continue liking Jonah Coleman a lot. He got one of the safest landing spots outside of Jeremiyah Love in the draft because we know that this is a team that utilizes the running back and utilizes multiple backs and does it in an efficient manner. So this is more so, I don't think he's not a good player. Let me say that. I think that his fantasy ceiling might be a little bit more limited than what we've given credence to so far. And I think that that's something that people aren't really considering. So I wanted to talk about it and bring it to the attention of the group. And now I will cede the floor for questions.
Well, we talked about it in the fantasy forecast that Jonah Coleman was a faller also. Excuse me. It's just a negative situation all around. There are a couple of different things that go on, and as analysts, sometimes we get ideas how we want things to play out. We get ideas of what a guy is, and then the NFL tends to tell you everything that you need to know about how that player is viewed. One of the guys I was talking about was Jamari Taylor. We all really liked Jamari Taylor, and he went undrafted. That speaks a lot. We thought Jonah Coleman, I had him as my RB2, thought that he was going to get late first, early second draft capital. He fell to the 4th, the 5th, and RJ Harvey has better draft capital than Jonah Coleman now. And then they went and they re-signed J.K. Dobbins. So what the Broncos were telling us is that they don't have 100% faith that RJ Harvey is the guy that they're going to hand the keys to in that running back room. They like what they get from J.K. Dobbins. Sean Payton likes a committee approach. We're going to get a lot of that. And then Jonah Coleman is just another mouth to feed. So I agree with you, Chev. RJ Harvey takes a dip, and it's hard to stomach.
I mean, the only silver lining here is I think the Broncos maybe be able to get off of RJ Harvey after this year, if I'm not mistaken. So there might be a situation where he goes somewhere where they use his talents a little bit more. Obviously, up the middle isn't his strong forte. And, I think Jonah Coleman might especially if there's something were to happen to J.K. Dobbins, I think, Jonah Coleman is going to really have some value here, because I think he brings some receiving upside as well. And he's a red zone machine. We compared him to Doug Martin in our rookie guide here. So I think that we're not too far off here with the Jonah Coleman take here, guys. And unfortunate situation in a rotational backfield, but gotta love the situation for Denver if you like the Denver Broncos here. So, all right, let's move on to Biggs's guy. Biggs, talk about your guy.
So, one guy that I was super, super high on last year was Chris Olave, and he had his best season. Everybody was worried about the concussions and everything. He had his career high in touchdowns. He had 156 total targets, 100 catches, and that was playing with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. A lot of people were worried about the quarterback environment in New Orleans, and I wasn't. And then they were scared of the concussion syndrome. This year, I like Olave still, but the fact that the Saints went out and they drafted Jordan Tyson leads me to believe that there's going to be some competition for targets that wasn't there before. They also made a trade for Jalen Polk, which we understand Jalen Polk to not be as good as when he came out in the draft, and then he lost a season last year due to injury. But while he was injured and not playing a single game last year, the Saints actually spent capital to bring him into the room. So there has to be a plan there with them. Trey Palmer isn't really a concern. I like the guy, but he's more of a returner. And then they got Bryce Lance. So with Bryce Lance coming in, now you have Jordan Tyson, you have Bryce Lance. Both of those guys we were super, super high on going through the rookie process. Juwan Jennings is still in town. There just looks like there's going to be more target competition for Chris Olave than there has been in a few years. And so he slips a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, I'm a huge Olave guy. I think for me, this is a really big gut wrench, one. But I mean, I still think he's going to command quite a bit of target share, but I don't think he's going to go upwards of the 160, 170, maybe upwards of 180, which I was hoping for this year. But Jordan Tyson comes in, number 8 overall, but Olave is probably still going to be the undisputed alpha here. We got to consider that Tyson is, recovering from an injury, but long-term, they're in position to probably move on from Olave, and Tyson might just come in and be that alpha for them and for years to come. So his arrival obviously changes the math for me. And suddenly that offense that once funneled heavy volume Olave's way now is in another high pedigree weapon that is added. So yeah, obviously Biggs, you got to note that. And maybe this is something, to note for future. Maybe this is a hedge bet here. If you got a little bit of Tyson shares, maybe this is them, saying that they're looking to move on from Olave in the future. And it may even happen this year. You never know. Like, I could see a landing spot like the Las Vegas Raiders could be in need of a top tier wide receiver. And Chris Olave could be just what Clint Kubiak ordered. And, they have a relationship in the past. So this could be a very good marriage, and I wouldn't discount that. But as it stands right now, I think it hurts his target share. And that's what Olave is really, getting his bread and butter off of in the last little while here in his great season. So, yeah, a little bit down, but still got a lot of shares. I'm still hopeful for 2026, but I think it definitely hampers his situation. Anybody else got anything to add to that?
Yes. I would encourage both of you to go look at what the wide receiver 1 does in Kellen Moore offenses.
Exceptionally well. Exactly. I mean, and I think that I love that situation here for Olave this year. It could be there, but he could be injured. And I think they're considering that, and they obviously are investing in Tyson. So, I'm still worried a little bit about him funneling a little bit of those targets.
Well, I mean, that two things can be true. I mean, Keenan Allen put up 108 receptions in 13 games with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, and Mike Williams was still very viable as a fantasy asset. Like CeeDee Lamb, there was no target behind CeeDee Lamb during his breakout season, but I mean, you look at Devonta Smith averaged a career high in points per game with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, playing second fiddle to AJ Brown, who still missed time, but managed to. I mean, he averaged like 84 yards a game and would have been on pace for another 1,400-yard season. So I think I love the environment. Sure, we could be talking about injuries, but I mean, we're all assuming that these players are healthy. Otherwise, the price point drastically changes. And finally, we got exactly what we were looking for. All the yards per route run nerds, all of his arrows are green nerds. We got our season that we've been hoping for Chris Olave, where he's a volume monster. So
yeah, I love him.
But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say he doesn't get 156 targets. Like, what do you think that drops to?
So I still think he's a top 12 wide receiver. I just don't think he's going to have a number 6 finish.
For me, I think that's kind of where he's going to be seen. I was hoping for like his next step in his progression. You know what I mean? Like I was putting my eggs in some.
What do you want him to be? You want him to be Jamar Chase? Like,
right. He already has.
I want him to be. I want him to finish as like a top 5 wide receiver. And I think he has that out. Like I thought he had that in his range of outcomes this year, garnering 170 plus targets, and I just don't see that in his realm of unless Jordan Tyson doesn't come out of the gate at all, right? You know what I mean? Like week 6 or 7, he may start or something. Then that might be in the range of opportunity, but I can't see that happening. And I see this team being a little bit better as well. So, they may not be in situations where they're going to be funneling or needing to be playing as much catch up. They got a better coach, in a situation here where they're a year removed from it. And, they brought in a weapon like, Travis Etienne, who's going to add to that run game as well. So that's going to also maybe funnel some of these targets away. I mean, he's an outside zone runner who garners targets in the passing game, and they haven't really done that last year. Alvin Kamara did not, come to fruition like a lot of us thought he was going to do. And that worries me as well. So like, I think that they could use that as a, they brought in a specific running back too. So like a guy that doesn't really run hard up the middle. So they got to be using him in the passing game in some realm. And they didn't really pass a whole lot last year. So like to their running backs. So that is also a concern. So just that ultimate ceiling that I thought that Olave would have is no longer there. That's why he's a faller for me. That's all.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, I don't have I don't have those concerns as far as I guess I never viewed him as a guy with a top 5 ceiling. So fair. Him finish like I was like, oh, cool, we got a ceiling outcome. Now we can see what the ceiling looks like. Because that's true for just about every receiver that gets 156 targets. Either you do JSN, Jamar Chase, Puka level stuff with it, or you do this. And so he just did it. And it's cool. And we should enjoy it. And it's fun. And he's probably closer to wide receiver 12 than he is wide receiver 6.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I just, from a numbers perspective, I have to look at, all right, is the 156 number probably going to come down some? Yeah. But could he get a little bit more active down the field? Like they were just force feeding him targets last year. So if it goes to 130, his ADOT goes up back up to around, goes up to like 9 or, 10.
10.
And, and he goes back to 14 yards of reception. He finishes with 80 receptions for 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. Like, are you really that upset about it?
No. And I just think that I saw the last, group of games where he was a league winner, and I was hoping to see that throughout a longer stretch of this season. Like I'm certainly happy with a top 12 wide receiver and Chris Olave moving forward. I was just hoping that, like my Olave bags would cash in a top 5 finish in 2026. And I think Jordan Tyson might help him, progress and stay healthy as well, because he's going to take some coverage off of him. They're not going to need to pepper him with targets, so he's going to take some less hits maybe. So yeah, maybe all of that rounds up. His ADOT will improve. So like I could see him finishing a very similar end game as 2025 and 2026. But my hope was an ascension, and Jordan Tyson certainly affects that a little bit.
No, I mean, without question, I'm not saying that you. I think that we got a ceiling outcome. Now we can just kind of bank. We can bank a couple years where we get some median outcomes, and we're
good.
We're okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. We've talked a lot about the negative now, so let's give some positive thoughts here. Let's talk about some of the guys that rose through this process, and I'm gonna talk about a guy that we talked about a lot in this last offseason, especially in some of our other shows, their Bigs, the Forecast. And we talk about Cam Skattebo as probably the biggest winner in this offseason, because he dodged the biggest bullet, and that was Jeremiyah Love. And what did he do in 2025 other than flash? Well, 101 carries, 410 yards, 5 touchdowns, 24 receptions, 207 yards in just 8 games. So, that's huge numbers for a running back. And now he stands poised to claim, that lead back role that desperately needs that stability. And if he can, recover well and come out of the gate here, the draft moves that the Giants did reinforced the offensive line, adding great pieces without bringing in direct high draft capital threat at running back, clearing the way for him. And, I think he could be getting 20 plus carries a game, with touches a game. And that's, including the passing game at just 24 years old, got great contact balance, receiving chops, proven ability to break tackles. He represents that archetype of the modern 3-down workhorse that wins championships in Dynasty. His price climbed steadily since the draft, but now still remains a buy. I mean, I got him in the 6th round in a Dynasty startup, and that was after the draft. And I think that is incredible value when you think of what he finished or would have finished if he hadn't gotten injured. And I think he's up there with the likes of Genty as far as, and all those guys from the last draft class that were up there, Hampton, Trey Van Henderson, Judkins. You should be putting Cam Skattebo in the same breath. Maybe not so much Genty, but those other guys for sure. I see that elite potential here as an RB1 for years, and I think the price is right here, and he's about to skyrocket. So if you're in a startup right now and he's still going outside of the 6th round, get him, because I think his price is only going to go up. And great riser here, and I'm a Skattebo truther at heart here. Schultzy, what do you got to say about Cam?
Yeah, it's got to be a big winner of the draft when you avoid. I mean, like you said, the Jeremiyah Love one, there was those rumors circulating. But when you just dodge domino after domino here the rest of the way, this is huge for Cam Skattebo. And like you said, you talked about what we saw out of him in his rookie season was awesome. You got to love what you're going to project forward. I know Tyron Chase is going to get a little bit of his work, and I'm sure Devin Singletary get a little bit of his too, and that's fine. But all signs are pointing to Skattebo being the guy here and being largely successful, paired with a running quarterback.
One of the things that I like the most about Skattebo is we knew that he was second in running back receptions and yards in college in his last season. Last year with the Giants, in 8 games, he had 32 targets. If he matches that this year, we're looking at like a 60-70 target season out of a running back, and that's going to be absolutely huge. I look at the New York Giants and how they have Malik Neighbors coming back, Skattebo coming back, Jackson Dart entrenched as their young QB, the defensive line that they have, the draft that they had. And I said at some point early last season, watch out. These guys are going to be in the Super Bowl in the next 5 years. And as long as they can keep their defense together, this offense is going to take them places. And I love Skattebo's positioning here.
Chev, got a question for you here. Would you like Cam Skattebo as your running back 6 on your starting squad in a fantasy lineup?
Me?
Yeah.
Myself personally? Yeah.
It's like running back 6. Well, I got him in the FSN startup. He's my running back 6 right now. So got a monster. Got a monster, boys.
Is this a point per carry league too?
No.
Oh, it's still that's still pretty sexy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's nursing an injury. He'll get into the top.
I don't. I mean, he said he's outrunning baby hippos, and that was in like January. So
There
I'm
it
sure
is.
he's progressed to outrunning full grown hippos now.
Love it.
And let me just take a second to shout out Sacramento State and the town of Rio Linda. Both of them are just a stone's throw from me right here.
All right.
You're using words right now that sound like they're real, but I don't.
Oh man, I love it, Jeff. All right, Schultzy, bring up your guy. Who are you going to talk about as your riser? Of course, Alec Pierce. Talk about him.
Of course, Alec Pierce. This is my Jaguars division rival here. I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't making me feel good. But Alec Pierce is a riser for sure, man. Like, you look at what he's done in his 4-year career, and the trajectory only points up. He's just gotten better as his tenure in Indianapolis has gone on. They signed him to the deal here to extend him to be a part of the team for quite some time now, and they trade away Michael Pittman and have Josh Downs on the depth chart here as like the only real competition. So you go into the draft and you think to yourself, like, at least, probably day two, day 3, day 2, somewhere in day 2, they're going to draft a wide receiver and probably maybe another one in day 3. Cause like, this is pretty thin on the depth chart here. No, all they do is add Deion Burks in round 7. So like we've got a really thin wide receiver room. I know the Danny Dimes situation isn't the most optimal at the moment, but here's another thing I love about Alec Pierce. Like, just in general, man, last year, though, he was 3rd in air yards, 3rd in deep targets, 1st in air yards share, 2nd in ADOT, and 7th in fantasy points per target. So, like, the usage is pretty off the charts here. They're getting him the ball down the field. He's catching the ball down the field because the ADOT matches everything else with it, the air yards share, the deep targets, and the air yards, and he's producing points to go with it. And this only came on 47 receptions. That number has to go up based on the wide receiver room and projected volume alone. And lastly here, for me, he had big games with 3 different quarterbacks, and not a single one I consider to be very good. So Daniel Jones, I mean, he saw it throughout the whole season before Jones went down. Pierce was great. He had a big game with Riley Leonard to end the season. He had a big game with Phillip Rivers, man. Like, all Alec Pierce did was produce when they needed him. The Colts see upward trajectory because they signed him to this deal. They clearly see big upward trajectory because they did nothing in the draft to bolster the room, essentially. And it's got to be wheels up for Alec Pierce.
Well.
Yeah, we're waiting for the well. Let's get to Chev's well.
Let's not stand on ceremony here, boys.
Let's do it anyway.
I mean, look. When everybody was all up in arms and had their was just nervous pervis, all right, about the Colts passing offense. I was like, hey, man, there's one guy that kind of fits both of these molds. So you had everybody going and buying Michael Pittman, thinking that he was going to be the guy. You had everybody. I mean, obviously, we were all Tyler Warren people, and we were excited about that. And I was like, man, I'm just going to, hey, best ball, I'm going to take Alec Pierce in like the 18th round. Hey, startups, I can get Alec Pierce after every single one of the other Colts wide receivers, including Adonai Mitchell, who's not on the team anymore. RIP to my boy. I was really high on him. Now he's with the Jets, so I mean he's probably going to be selling insurance outside of MetLife soon. But that's neither here nor there. But with Alec Pierce, you've seen his skill set grow. He was just the deep guy, over 20 yards a catch back-to-back seasons. Still kind of just a deep guy, but then you saw him start to evolve as a pass catcher and a complete player. So Schultzy, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, they don't bring in any serious target competition, meaning that they paid him to be the alpha. And I think that that's exactly what we're going to get. It's going to be a whole lot of him and Tyler Warren, and you're sprinkling some Josh Downs, and we're going to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. And, if we with a guy that has the type of air yards and yards per target and his skill set, if 125 targets for him is like Chris Olave getting 160 because of how many points he scores with the types of receptions that he makes and how deep downfield that they occur. So yeah, you're spot on, bud.
How's his yak ability, Chev? Is he a really good after the catch kind of guy now that if he gets some intermediate route stuff, which he's probably going to have to garner now because he's going to get some more target shares, is he going to be going down right away? Could he make some moves outside there? Like what does that look like for Alec Pierce?
I think that he can. I think that most of his work has been boundary,
exactly,
sideline, like tracking the ball or playing the ball in the air and winning at the catch point. Whereas this past year, you saw him running some big in breakers and things of that nature, so that he showed you that he's grown into this role. This is not what he was able to do coming out of Cincinnati. Out of Cincinnati, it was just throw it up. Alec Pierce is down there somewhere, and he's going to come down with it because he's a superior athlete. But he's developed into more of a complete receiver now. The question is, can he go from being, the 1,000-yard guy that's just kind of the deep ball guy to can he be a 1,300 or 1,400-yard guy that's a 80 to 90 reception guy? And I think that's where some skepticism comes in.
Except that the Colts think that he can, and that's why they've made the moves that they have. I love Alec Pierce. He's my second most owned wide receiver in my Dynasty portfolio. I'm hoping for a huge year from him. And Mike, you ask about his yak. A lot of his yak comes from when he gets behind the defender and then catches the ball, and it's just nobody there between him and the end zone. So there's definitely some yak to his game. It's not necessarily like what we think of when we think of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
To piggyback off what Chev said about the quality of targets here, Alec Pierce was 7th last year in fantasy points per target. So the proof's in the pudding right there.
Well, what this all means to me too is that it's like I'm really excited about Tyler Warren this year as well. I think this whole offense is going to be consolidated, and all these guys are going to eat quite a bit. All right, Chev, talk about your riser, because I was excited to see when you put him on the show sheet, because you could probably get him for next to nothing right now. So it'll be interesting to see why you think about this, and obviously situation maybe, and targets, because there's nothing there really outside of some rookies. So talk a little bit more about Greg Dulcich.
Yeah, this has been a long con for quite some time. I mean, I was high on him as a Denver Bronco, and then somehow or another, Sean Payton just absolutely started to hate him, and so that didn't work out. And then he resurfaced in the preseason last year. With New York and had a strong preseason. Didn't make that team because they've got a billion tight ends, but he landed in Miami. And in terms of first downs per route run and yards per target over the course of the last 10 weeks of the season, he was really, really solid. And I think he led in yards per target once, over the course of that last 9 weeks. So, and he's not your typical. He's more along the lines of the Mike Gesicki's of the world. He's not an inline tight end. Going back to what Andrew Cooper said, I think this could be a very consolidated offense between the rookies and Devon Achane and Greg Dulcich. I do think Greg Dulcich is going to be a part. We just saw what I know Bobby Slowick's not off the mic, the Matt LaFleur tree, but we have Joe Hafley, who has a history with a guy like Tucker Kraft and the way that they've utilized him. You've seen Slowick off the 49ers tree. We have a pathway to usage in terms of the OC's history, like historical usage patterns, and him the head coach coming from somewhere where they just saw a stud tight end. I think Dulcich has like high end tight end 2 upside with the ability to give you spike weeks. And you want ambiguous environments to take a bet on a tight end. The only tight end I believe that they brought in was a guy named Seydou Traore, who was a 5th round pick out of the international player program out of Mississippi State. So I don't really think that. I mean, I'm really high on Greg Dulcich. One, because he just reminds me of Billy from Stranger Things, but also because I just think he's a really good player. And I think that sometimes it just takes tight ends a little bit longer to find their footing and develop. I mean, again, he fell out of grace with Sean Payton after winning the Mackey Award and putting up some solid numbers as a rookie. Sometimes, I mean, that just happens. That doesn't mean you're not a good player. It just means it's not a good fit. So, yeah, the reason that I'm into Greg Dulcich is because that's a very nebulous environment to where he could come in and start putting up low-end tight end 1 numbers, and you can get him for next to nothing. And in a tight end premium league, that starts to compound very quickly.
Yeah, the traditional tight end career arc, year 5 is about when they hit their stride and start to become productive. Obviously, you have guys like Kyle Pitts and Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta that break out as rookies or in the first couple of years. We saw that from Fannin and Gadsden last year. But most tight ends take 4 to 5 years before they really break. And I think Dulcich is in a great situation. They haven't brought back they haven't really had a tight end who has been tight end 1 level fantasy relevant. But like you said, tight end 2 with some spike weeks, it's a good take.
Yes.
I you know what? When I saw that on the show sheet, I really started digging. I'm like, how could he not be a guy that you want to get some shares of in an offense that really does not have a wide receiver 1 right now? Like, I mean, who is it? Like, I mean, Caleb Douglas could be the guy, like, as a rookie. Like, we've got, a very, very sporadic wide receiver room. Tyreek Hill could return, doubtful, obviously. HN, is destined for probably a big season here, but, Dulcich is certainly a guy that is going to garner some targets and has shown some potential here. And as long as, Darren Waller doesn't come back and eat all his lunch, I think this could be a pretty safe bet, and you can get him virtually for free. So that is a very, very savvy call there, big Chev. I like it, and I think the whole panel is in agreement with you. So great call on the Greg Dulcich. Now, Biggs, talk about your guy here. Let's get into your post-draft riser, because he's an older guy, so a guy you could probably get for cheap in Dynasty right now, along with Greg Dulcich. So talk about your riser, who's also a tight end.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about buying the dip on Mark Andrews. Going into this exercise, there were some indicators that we wanted to look at, and one of them was who is around in the environment. And we had an out of character season from Andrews last year. That might mean that he has lost a step, but it could just be a blip in the radar. And this guy has been consistently a top 10 tight end when he finishes the season. The big indicator for me was the fact that Isaiah Likely is no longer in Baltimore. Everybody was waiting on his ascension to become the tight end one in Baltimore. Baltimore made it clear that Mark Andrews is still the guy. Likely is not around to kick around anymore. And they didn't really do anything in the draft. They drafted Elijah Surratt. That's really not going to move the needle very much. And at tight end, they brought in Durham Smythe. And then I think they drafted Matthew Hibner and they drafted Josh Cuevas from Alabama. None of those guys are going to give Mark Andrews any competition. We know that the Ravens are primarily a run-first team, but this offense is once again Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, and that's basically it. So taking his tight end 16 finish from 2025 and banking on positive regression, the fact that Isaiah Likely is gone and they didn't draft anybody for competition, Andrews rises in my estimation.
I do agree with you with Andrews rising 100% here. But I do think Elijah Surratt does bring some challenges here for him, especially in the red zone. I think Surratt brings a really big red zone threat to the Baltimore Ravens. But I obviously with Isaiah Likely moving on, I think a lot of those targets are going to move on to Mark Andrews, and I think the situation here is prime for him to have a season where he could finish as a tight end one, and he's basically free right now. People are off of him, and with Isaiah Likely moving on, some of these guys, Jacoby Lane, I don't mind that pick for the Ravens, but I prefer Surratt, and they got him for cheaper too. So he can do everything that Lane can do, but I think is a little bit tougher and can hold up against that press coverage a little bit better, and can be a red zone threat. So that might be where, as an aging tight end, where a lot of their bread and butter comes in is that red zone looks where Mark Andrews has had success in the past. That might be a concern, but I think the target share that he'll garner with Isaiah Likely out will offset that balance of the touchdown regression here. So I like the call, Biggs. Anybody else with or without Mark Andrews? Do you think this is a good call?
I just fear that he's cooked. It scares me.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, obviously, with them moving on and doing all these things, they're putting these things into place, but don't really have anybody to take on that throne after Mark Andrews leaves. I mean, this is a year 10 tight end now almost. So yeah, that is a fear there, Chev. Absolutely.
Yeah, it sucks because if he was still Mark Andrews, we're talking about him in that tier with, where I would have him would be just after the Kraft, Warren, Loveland cohort, talking about him being like a top 6 tight end for Dynasty. But it stinks. I mean, back-to-back 3 years straight, was this 9 games played, 13 games played, 11 games played, or a game started. Like he played 17 games back-to-back years, and we didn't get more than 70 targets is the high water mark, right? Like it stinks because this was a borderline Hall of Fame trajectory after when he went on that little run right there. You see 14 games, 700 yards, 1,300 yards, 800 yards. And then, it just kind of starts to curtail, tails off right around, I guess, is that when the car accident happened? Did it happen in 2023 or 2024?
I think it's 24.
Yeah. So you had the season-ending ankle injury the year before, and then he comes and gets into the car wreck and all that jazz. And, it's just all been a very unfortunate run out from that point forward for Mark Andrews. So great shout because he's so cheap that it doesn't hurt you if it doesn't happen. So it's a great shout. It just, as someone who has been Mark Andrews cheerleader number 1, like I'm nervous as hell about this.
Yeah, he's being drafted right now in Dynasty PPR startups at tight end 20.
That's egregious.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. And like Grindberg knows, I was when he had his rough start to 2024, I was all on board the go get Mark Andrews off the waiver wire wagon because people were dropping him.
Yep.
And then he went and put it in a top 10 finish. So he's got it. He's 30, but we know what he can do.
Well, I mean, he like I took a stab on him in this startup that we just finished for FSAN because, you know, tight ends were going pretty high, obviously with Trey McBride going as the tight end, as the 5th pick overall. The kind of were going early, and I ended up getting Mark Andrews as my 2nd tight end off the board because I ended up going with Strange. So Strange and Mark Andrews as the 1109. So, you know, he's sliding, you know, down the board quite a bit in tight end premiums. And yeah, he was, I think, the tight end 20 off the board. So a guy that maybe, you know, could help my team get off to a good start. And maybe Strange could take up the pace as the year goes on. So we'll see.
Oh, is that the same startup that I got Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, Isaiah Likely, and Jake Tungus?
Yeah, that's the same one. Oh, do you want to rattle off? Is that the same startup that I got? Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, Cam Skattebo, Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams.
What we're here to do. Nobody wants to. Nobody shake your mate. The pissing contest is over.
It's all right. Thank you, Chev. Right. Thank you for bringing us back and reeling us in. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, let's get that board off the screen there, Schultzy. Let's end this show in fashion because hour on the mark here, guys. Talked about some risers and fallers, and yeah, we're ready. Off season's going, startup season is happening, and we got a lot going on. Like the rookie prospect guide just dropped again, the 2nd edition. So be sure to pick that up on fsn.com. And yeah, got a lot going on. So it's been a great show. Biggs, take us home like you always do.
Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. If you're new here, give us a comment, say hi. We tend to get active in the comments when the videos drop. Let us know if you agree, disagree with our takes. Let's get some Juwan Jennings engagement going. How do you think he's going to survive in Minnesota? Is that a better in real life signing or a good one in Dynasty or in?
It's pretty cold, but he'll probably be okay.
And like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. Go to the website, cop the draft guide if you haven't had your rookie draft yet, or cop it even if you have done your rookie draft, and get the intel for the redrafts coming up. Also, it's real pretty. So do all that, and we hope you win.
Hope you win, folks. Peace out. We'll see you next week. Later.
We've all been there, watching a can't-miss rookie bust while your rival scoops up the next superstar on waivers. The 2026 class is deep, talented, and full of landmines. Do you know who's actually worth the 101? Stop guessing, start scouting. The Fantasy Sports Advice Network 2026 Rookie Prospect Guide is your blueprint for a dynasty. The experts from the Fantasy Forecast, the Devi Dojo, the Dynasty Pulse have logged the hours so you don't have to. From advanced analytical models to raw film grading, we give you the data that translates to Sunday points. Don't just participate in your draft. Dominate it. Download the 2026 guide at fsan.com today. Your championship starts here.